So I have just finished to read a book, a very interesting and long book that is entitled On Outline of the History of Economic Thought. This is the book, a book of Ernesto Screpanti and Stefano Zamagni. It was a very, very interesting book with a lot of important questions, a book in which you can, I have really learned something new, especially for the final part, that is the chapter 12, Post-Smithian Revolution. But also in all the book there are really interesting and new questions that are able to shed light on the way in which economic as a science arose. And the contradiction among the possibility to integer the Adam Smith theory of moral sentiments in the field of economics, the ability of economists to try to create a theory, mainstream theory that can work as a tool, or all the ethics that are in the books, such as, for example, institutionalist. There is a really interesting chapter that is dedicated to heresies, and these is the chapters in which there are, for example, the analysis of Marxism, post-Marxism, Karl Polanyi. There is a chapter that are for unconventional economists, Karl Polanyi, Georgescu Rogan, Hirschman, and Godwin. There is a really interesting analysis of institutional economics. I really believe that institutional economics can save economics from the decline and of the theory, since institutional economics is able to put in economics new attention in respect to institutions, government policies, and also social relations that are crucial to development of economics. And also there is an analysis of radical political economy. It is Marxism, analytical Marxism, post-Marxism, and also there is the book is completed with an analysis of an anthropological issue, the ability of economics to escape from home economics and to follow new definition, new anthropological definition of economics that can be effectively used to realize a new science. It is a really a book of 550 pages of written text, and later there are notes and bibliographical references. So it's a very, very interesting book, a very, very important book. I am not able now to make some kind of resume due to the fact that it is a very, very hard topic to resume this book. But I have chosen to make different videos in which I resume the book chapters by chapter. These are 12 chapters, so there will be 12 videos for resume this book. But now, just as an interesting consideration, I want to challenge one of the most important part of this book, that is the analysis of Keynesian Keynes economics, Keynesian economics, in which there is something that is really strange. This really challenging. It's not really something new, but it is something that that comes to my mind when I was reading this book. They say essentially, the authors say essentially that Keynes was, in a certain sense, contrary to the idea that supply generates demand. This is the crucial point, one of the main point of classical and the general theory. But at the same time, it is there is something strange in the conclusion of the general theory itself, in which the authors, that is Keynes, sustains the importance of investments. So the question is this: at the end of the critique, it is possible to say that authors say, I cite to page 251, in order to understand the change, it is necessary to begin with Say's law. Most precases and critics had rejected this law because of its implication for the equilibrium between production and expenditure. So there is a critique of the Say law. The Say law is that there is the law that says, the law that affirms that there is the supply generates demand. But at the end of the chapter, we found that also Keynes concludes that investment are crucial for economic growth. So it is the same thing that says of the Say's law. If investments are an essential force of economic development, of economic growth, so in a certain way, also in Keynesian economics, we find a replace of the Say's law. This is a consideration, just a little consideration that I want to share, but that I will develop further. But I think that is illuminating, especially to overcome some walls that have been created among different kind of economic theories. So it is a really interesting book. I think that it's important to go deep in the history of economic thought, to understand what are the challenges of economics, to understand what are the objective of economic profession. The authors conclude that the passage from modern to postmodern science, it is a passage also in the philosophical conception of science, that is a passage in epistemological meaning of science, is able to shed light of new elements that economists should consider it. I just want to do a question of this book, that is the question of technology. There is not sufficient analysis of technology in this book, even if there are different authors that consider the role of technology. But we know in the industry, the development of Industry 4.0, technology is really central in shaping new economic curves. So probably this is already a thing that should be considered. The development of economics in the context of technological change. So the question is, if all of in part of the theories that have been created can be regenerated in the sense of the Industrial Revolution. The authors seem to neglect this hypothesis. They substantially say that economic theory, in the sense of mainstream economic theory, is a failure, and that is important to rebuild economics based on new anthropological basis. But I will analyze these elements in further videos, in which I will go deep in each chapter of this really interesting book that I want to analyze with you. That is an outline of the history of economic thought of Ernesto Screpanti and Stefano Zamani.